it's very important to recognize that we cannot train ourselves out of every single thing. Law enforcement has gone through a lot of training over the last several years, but sometimes you just have to be, take a deep breath and just have human expression.
Brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the interrogation room. My name is Dale. I'm the host of the Black and Blue Podcast. Thank you for joining me here today. I've got another special guest for you. He is in administration with the Arlington Police Department in Arlington, Texas. Everyone, please help me welcome in Tarrick McGuire. Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Dale. How are you doing this evening?
Excellent. So how are things treating you out there in Texas right now with all the turmoil going on?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a very challenging time, not just for us here in Texas, but for the nation. We see people that are protesting across the country. A lot of people are in pain due to just not only law enforcement actions that they saw with Mr. Floyd, but there are a lot of people that are in pain just off of systemic racism and the challenge that our nations have faced. So here in Texas, it's been a very busy week. As you can tell, I have some bags up under my eyes. I hadn't had that much sleep, but I truly believe that this is what we sign up for, right? And what I mean by what we sign up for, we sign up to lead, serve, and protect the community. And right now we're dealing with a crisis. I've encouraged not only my officers that work up under me, but I've also encouraged the community to advocate for the things that matter to them. And I think what we want to ensure, not only as police executives, but community leaders, that people are able to express their rights and what their thoughts are. Exercise their rights and express what their thoughts are in a procedurally just manner. So it's a very challenging time for the country. A lot of things that you saw nationally on television. We're experiencing protests here in Arlington every single day. And our officers and our leaders are committed, again, to ensuring that people have the ability to express their amendment rights. We'll get through this together. We've also had a lot of community resiliency and resolve, just to say, hey, we stand with you. And we saw a shift, not only in civil rights, but we saw a shift in law enforcement advocating for civil rights. And so that's why I'm optimistic that we'll get through this and we'll be better as a nation after this occurs.
Yeah, definitely. So you are, what is your position there in Arlington?
So I'm glad you asked me that. I'm honored to be a deputy police chief in Arlington, Texas. I've been with the organization all of my adult life. It was my first job coming out of college. I've been there right past 17 years. I started with the organization in March of 2003, and I've been able to kind of move up through the ranks some, we'll say at a very accelerated pace. But Arlington is an excellent organization. We've been recognized as one of the top 15 police departments in the nation, up under President Obama's 21st Century Task Force on Policing. We not only pride ourselves in just our leadership team, but we also pride ourselves in our officers and how they serve the community. We're not by far perfect. We have had issues that have gone on within our cities and things that we're not proud of. But we also have been proud of how our organization has been able to work with the community through crisis to ensure that we continue to establish those strong relationships. So I'm going on my 18th year, just passed the recent anniversary in March. And like a lot of other law enforcement professionals, just trying to do the best that I can do to reach a peak in my career to where we can hand it off to the next generation. So I'm a deputy chief. I'm actually the highest ranking African American in the police department.
Okay.
So that comes with a great responsibility, not only to our organization, but also to the community.
How large is the police department as far as sworn?
So we have 700 sworn officers. Just some interesting facts about our organization. We have 700 sworn officers in our police department. 60% of our police department represents a diverse or protected class. So we are a majority minority police department. And Arlington Police Department is the largest policing organization in the country that requires a bachelor's degree. So you have to, a lot of people call me all the time, and I always encourage people to continue to pursue your education beyond law enforcement. And so those are some requirements that we have as an organization. But, a lot of times people try to say, well, if I don't have a bachelor's degree, does that mean I'm not a smart, good police officer? Well, that's absolutely not true. But I think education continues to evolve. And we as a profession need to continue to evolve along with that education.
Right. And where's Arlington situated for those of us that don't know about Texas?
Sure. So Arlington is situated between Dallas and Fort Worth. So the greater Dallas metropolitan area is referred to DFW. So of course, if you fly into Dallas or Fort Worth, there's two airports. Typically there's DFW Airport, and then there's Love Field Airport. That's a smaller airport that's in Dallas. But Arlington is situated between Dallas and Fort Worth. It's approximately 400,000 residents in the city of Arlington. And I always mess with people about this because Arlington is the home of America's team, right? And so there's this big
wait a minute.
$1 billion.
The Niners are in San Francisco, right? You said America's team.
I mean, that's where some battles have occurred, right, with America's team. But the Arlington, Texas is home of AT&T Stadium, Cowboys Stadium, which is Dallas Cowboys Stadium. And then we just recently opened Globe Life Park, which we hadn't had a baseball game there because, of course, we also have an ongoing pandemic right now. And Six Flags Over Texas Hurricane Harbor is kind of the center point or central point of North Texas for entertainment. So it's a growing city. We continue to grow. I'm sure the population growth will continue as home development continues and infrastructure. But right now we're sitting about 400,000 people.
What are the demographics of Arlington?
So the demographics of Arlington, it's a majority Caucasian city. And then African Americans probably represent about 18% of the population. Hispanics probably somewhere around 20% of the population. But we have a very diverse community, a plethora of religious backgrounds and institutions throughout the city. But it is a city that really works together toward problem solving, just to kind of increase continuity among civic leadership and community leadership. So very diverse city.
Yeah. Isn't there a university or college there, a large one there, or is that?
It is. So we have several, well, let me say this, the Metroplex also has different community college systems. So you have Dallas County College or Dallas County Community College. You also have Collin County Community College, and then we're situated in Tarrant County. So there is a Tarrant County college campus in Arlington, and you also have the University of Texas in Arlington, which is really just south of our police station. And it is a large campus, has approximately 40,000 enrollment. So it's a part of the University of Texas system. So a great place to come get your education as well.
Yeah, I remember that epic Rose Bowl battle with USC a few years ago when Vince Young was there. Yeah, that was
Yeah, that was UT is down in Austin, and that was one of those, epic historical, football games, right? I think Reggie Bush was at USC at the time, and then Vince Young was down at the University of Texas. And I'm not a hook 'em horns. I used to play college football in the Big 12, but I definitely salute Vince Young for that victory. And I mean, I think that etched his name in college football history.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I guess I got the two University of Texas mixed up there. But yeah, where'd you play ball?
So I went to Oklahoma State University.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people always ask me, where am I from, right? Because they say, oh man, I hear this accent in your voice. And a lot of times I can't hear the accent, but I was born and raised in Dallas. I come from a southern sector of Dallas called Oak Cliff. It's actually pronounced Oak, like O-K Cliff, but we say Oak Cliff. And I went to David W. Carter High School. I don't know if you all remember the movie Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
It was a national movie about Friday night football in Texas. And so Carter High School was the kind of predominantly African-American high school that wore all red, that was in Friday Night Lights, that played Odessa Permian. But I come from a neighborhood and an environment that has a broad, vast history of successful, not only collegiate athletes, but just great thinkers. And so everywhere I go, I always say that, I'm the kid from Oak Cliff anytime I do any type of public speaking, because I think it speaks to young people in the neighborhood and environment that I came from, to let them know that, hey, one day you can grow up, right? And you can accomplish what your dreams and goals are. So I went on a full football scholarship to Oklahoma State. Had an awesome time there playing in the Big 12 Conference. And like a lot of collegiate athletes, I can tell you a long story of why I didn't go to the NFL. But ultimately, I don't think that was my place in society. I don't think that that's where God wanted me to be long term. I think that football was a catalyst for me to get my bachelor's degree in education. But I think similar to you, policing is my calling. And this is where God has elevated me to. And so, my goal is to stay humble and just to continue to try to elevate those that work up under me, but also try to do what I can do to advocate for change.
Yeah. What was your position that you played in football?
So I played tight end. So, tight ends are completely different now. When I played college football, I mean, I hadn't grown in it, really hadn't gained much weight. I don't have as much muscle mass as I used to, but I was 6'3", probably about 255 pounds, playing in the Big 12. And man, it was the best time of my life, to play Division I college football and play on the national level, national television, and, have the support of a community and just people across the country was an exciting time.
Yeah. And what'd you do after graduation?
So after I graduated, of course, I came back home and I applied to several police departments. And I'll be honest with you, I applied at the Dallas Police Department. I also applied at the Arlington Police Department. And at that particular time, it was tough getting a job. It took me about 10 months after I graduated to actually start the police academy. I thought that, hey, I have a degree now. People are going to want to hire me. And I went back home and I went back to my mom and dad's house in Dallas. And my dad looked at me and he said, well, son, what are you going to do? I remember him saying this very vividly. He said, you can't stay here. He said, you're going to have to find, it's not, no disrespect to young people and millennials today. I have an older son in college now playing football in the SEC. And I expressed to him all the time that he needs to have a plan moving forward. With my dad, I said, son, you can't stay here. You're going to have to find you a job somewhere. So ultimately, I got hired on in Arlington. And it took 10 months for the police academy to start. And so that's when my dad gave me that conversation. You're going to have to get to moving, right? And so I was just blessed, man, to be one of the few, to be chosen. I'm coming up, I guess, in the next couple of years, it'll be 20 years. It doesn't even seem that long, but here I am today, still in school, still trying to progress and move forward.
Right,
so.
Right. Had you thought about law enforcement the whole time, or?
I'll be honest with you. growing up, I grew up in the church. I'm in Texas. I'm in the Bible Belt. I was in church every single day of the week. But you talk about police officers being role models and mentors. There were 2 deacons in my church. They're both deceased now. God bless their soul. Lloyd Whitaker and Joe Fletcher. And these were 2 Dallas police officers, and they would come to Bible study on Wednesday night, take a break during their shift or their lunch hour, and they would come in, and I would see them all the time. And they would just mentor me, and just looking at them in a uniform and what they represented really kind of inspired me at an early age to say, okay, if I don't go the athletic direction, then I know that I want to be in something and do something that is going to serve the community, and more than likely that would be policing.
Nice. And then what have you done over there at Arlington PD? What sort of assignments?
Man, I've had multiple assignments, just like every officer. I started out on patrol. When I started out on patrol, I kind of worked very hard, not only responding to calls, but just being very proactive in the community. And then I went from patrol to investigations. And so I was a detective for about 2.5 years, and then ultimately began to promote through the organization. And so, from first line supervision to middle management, now to where I am in executive management. But I've been in investigations. We have an entertainment district tourism unit that kind of has a footprint around the special events that go on in North Arlington around the stadium. And so I started that unit years ago when Cowboy Stadium was coming. Not only that, then, as a commander, as a lieutenant, I've managed patrol districts as well. Then I had an awesome opportunity after kind of establishing a footprint in community police relations as a commander, starting a mentoring program that got a lot of national attention. From there, I went to Washington, D.C. for a year while President Obama was in office in 2015, right after the Ferguson situation happened, where we saw national outrage throughout the country. So I was able to work on police reform. It was a great opportunity just to work with the Department of Justice, great organizations like the International Association of Chiefs of Police, Noble National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, just to kind of work on police reform throughout the United States. And during that time, I had an eye-opening experience, Dale. I learned that the fundamental process of policing was the same across the country, but how we treat people was completely different, depending upon what city you were in and what demographics you were in. So, it was a real eye-opening experience. A lot of things I was able to house and put into my mental bank in my think tank and return back to Arlington, and just to kind of continue to do the work that we all do every single day. I've worked in a plethora of assignments. I will tell you that I also was now I'm back over field operations, but I was Deputy Chief of Support Operations. And so I had crime scene, the jail, just multiple different, it's so many to name. But at the same time, just kind of learning about government, right? Because I always explain to people that policing is just a function of government, right? We're the public safety arm of city management. And so just understanding processes as it relates to budget, city council, staff reports, those are a lot of things that officers normally don't, get exposed to. So when you think about policing and you kind of want to continue to grow your knowledge, know about what goes on at City Hall, and hey, if we need new police cars, then how do you advocate for that? If you need additional officers, how do you look at staffing models, the more business side of law enforcement that kind of help you, strategically plan in the future for what you want your organization to look like.
Right. And earlier you mentioned that you're the highest ranking African American there. Is there any sort of mentorship or anyone that you can thank or mention that will kind of help you along the way, took you under their wing and kind of mentored you along your path?
Absolutely. I think that that should be a question for everybody. right? I always tell people all the time, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, or no matter where you're moving through, every day is an assessment center. People are always watching you. There are times that I've been out in public and thinking that I'm alone by myself, and somebody will come up to me and say, "Hey, Chief, how are you doing?" Or they'll say, "Hi, Tarrick, how are you doing?" But I encourage people, and I tell people all the time, people are always constantly watching you. And so early, even in my career, one of my mentors was, he was the first Black police chief in Arlington. His name was Dr. Tarrick McGuire. And he told me several things, Dale. He said, number one, you need to continue to get your education. After I graduated from Oklahoma State, I had a bachelor's degree. I said, look, I'm done with school, not going back to school. I've had enough school. I do not like school, right? And ultimately, as I kind of transitioned through the organization, I began to work on my master's degree. It took me 4.5 years to get my master's degree because I paid out of pocket. Some semesters I was just tired. And then after I got my master's degree, I said I would never go back to school again. And when I began to start speaking around the country and out of the country, more so international, and talk about policing practices and leadership, I would be in the room with people that had their doctorate and PhDs, and they would be able to talk more so in depth about research. And so now here I am again, in a doctoral program. But Dr. Bowman told me 3 things that really stuck out with me to continue to develop me over time, and I pass that same information to officers today. Number 1 is to continue to get your education. Number 2 is to publish. And what he meant by publish is that a lot of times we look at the tactical part of policing, but we really do not forecast more so the academic part of policing, evidence-based policing, knowing how to deploy officers and resources, right? Why we do what we do, but to do it more in a scientific way that substantiates and that can explain and express why we operationalize our resources the way that we do. And the third thing that he also told me was to understand policing outside of the city that I police in, right? The United States is only one of a few nations that does not have a national police force. And that question is why, right? Because we have a diverse, eclectic society, and communities want their police to police how they desire them to police, right? Yep. And so when you look at this term that we use a lot called best practices, the question is, what works here in Arlington, Texas may not work somewhere in another city in California. But you can learn what someone does in another policing environment, right? And understand how that applies to the community that you're policing in. So, a lot of issues that we see right now are dealing with race relations. And a lot of those issues are systemic to a degree in law enforcement, right? But I said the other day sitting on the panel, this is not directly a policing problem. This is a problem of racial systems that we have saw in place for quite some time that somewhat have oppressed people, right? And so, we have to have information. We have to have data to support and substantiate the changes that we want to make. So, I continue to encourage people with the same information that Dr. Bowman gave me, because we continue to work in a profession that is constantly evolving. And then the final thing I would say to anyone that kind of, wants to kind of move up in law enforcement, move to different assignments, make your voice heard. If you have a boss, go tell your boss, hey, chief or lieutenant or sergeant or whatever that position may be, this is what I want to do in my career, right? And as you make your voice heard, then you also need to think about what is it that this organization does not have? Me individually, right? What do I bring to the table? How do I make this organization and community better? And I always tell people to put it on paper, right? Have a strategic plan, not only for the organization, but also have a vision board and a strategic plan for yourself. And then you operationalize that and you work to accomplish what those goals are. And then if you haven't done that, right, you don't always accomplish the goals that you always desire and the maybe it's not the same amount of time frame that you put it on paper. But if you never accomplish those goals that you put down on paper, then you aren't working toward those goals.
Right.
So you have to have people in your life that's going to hold you accountable, that's going to remind you about what you said you were going to do, because we all get tired sometimes, we all get unfocused. But you have to keep a circle around you to keep you motivated, that's going to hold you accountable to the goals that you set out to do.
Got it. So you're talking about, having people that hold you accountable for what you do in life, and on your job. Did you have a support system, coming up? Did your family have your mom and your dad, did they have any qualms about you joining law enforcement? Your circle of friends, anything like that?
I have to be honest with you. I think that, my parents have always encouraged me just to do the very best at whatever I desire to do, right? I think about MLK's speech about, hey, if you're going to be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper you possibly can be. Yep. And my parents, told me earlier in life, whether they were just feeding me bluff or they were trying to encourage me, they always would tell me there's something special about you, right? You're going to do something that is going to be very special, and you're going to do something that's going to make a change in society. And so they've always encouraged me to do whatever it is that was on my heart and whatever was on my mind within reason, and to excel in that. I remember when I was in the police academy, maybe like multiple academies across the country, I always have family night. And I know in Arlington, we still continue to have family night today, to where we bring families in and talk about what is it like to be a police officer, right? What is it like to enforce a law? What are the dangers of doing this job? What are the successes of doing this job? To kind of reiterate the infrastructure of family and supporting your officer. And so I think back to that time, my mom expressed to me, yeah, she had some concerns. And a lot of those concerns were just like everyone else, about danger, right? Can my child get killed? Can my child get seriously injured to where it's something that is life altering? But I think that as time kind of moved on, they understood that, hey, this job, majority of the time, and this, we respond to places that people are asking for our assistance because they're in need. There is a very small amount of time where we face great danger on an everyday, daily basis. It's not like some, television show to where you are, responding to danger every single call that you go to during the day. Sometimes it's just trying to help somebody get out the road, where sometimes it's just trying to, follow up on something that may not even be related to police. Yeah. So, but I have a great family, great support structure, and my people pray for me on a constantly ongoing basis. There
you go. How about with like things coming up right now in the world, questions that people outside of law enforcement, I'm sure your family, your friends, your circle of friends outside of law enforcement have questions for you. Do you like to talk about, what we're going through in law enforcement and kind of give them insight as well?
Yeah, so it's difficult sometimes, right? Because especially when we're living and operating an environment as we are right now, people call you all the time on a daily basis. I just got off the phone earlier, just expressing to a few people, I really want to thank you for checking on me this week, because it's been tough, man. It's been a very difficult week for the community, for the cops, and more so for people of color, for Black people, right? And those in that segment of our community always ask some of the difficult questions. Is my child gonna get killed by the police? Why did you kill my child? Is my family safe? Why do we get pulled over? Why were we treated this way? And normally it has a racial undertone to it. And so you have to be able to balance, what is statistical based versus what is reality based, right? Because there are several academic arguments that are out there that it relates to people's questions. Some of those arguments are the disparities that we see in policing, disparities in traffic stops as it relates to population and police contact with persons. And then those are the disparities that police use force less than 2% of the time. But to me, this is not a time to talk about numbers, right?
Exactly.
This is a time just to talk about humanity and human dignity, because quite frankly, there are some things that you can't explain by numbers. You can't explain human experience. I myself have been pulled over by law enforcement at times, even being younger, even while working in this profession. And some of those things have haunted me that have haunted my father, right? Some of those things continue to be on the minds of myself right now with my children, right? And so I think that it's very important to recognize that we cannot train ourselves out of every single thing. Law enforcement has gone through a lot of training over the last several years, but sometimes you just have to be, take a deep breath and just have human expression.
Yeah.
Just like what we're seeing right now with law enforcement leaders around the country. The death of George Floyd was tragic. And it was a time that we really had to look in the mirror and look at ourselves and say, this was wrong. Regardless of what use of force policies are in place, regardless of probably, some people will probably argue this, but what happened beforehand and afterhand, which is very important. And when you look at any use of force incident, because there are times where it looks bad to a lot of people in the community through a small snippet of social media, where we have to ensure that we do our due diligence, because this is a dangerous job for police officers as well. But this is a time where people are calling and asking questions because this officer just sat there on this man's neck while he was handcuffed to the ground.
Yep.
And so those are some of the difficult questions that have added on to this narrative that law enforcement officers seek out to kill Black men. And you have to be able to have a human expression to where you can allow people to express how they feel, but to also be human and empathize with them. And some of us can sympathize with them because we've had similar expressions or feelings that have happened to our families personally. So it's a time to refocus on humanity and ethics and morality and how we treat people across this nation, not only just in policing.
Yeah, with that said, you guys have a problem recruiting African Americans and minorities into the department. You guys have some sort of special programs where minorities can speak with officers or do special ride-alongs or some get their things together so they can be in law enforcement themselves. Because I think that's what we need as well. We need more minorities, more African Americans in law enforcement, so the communities can kind of look more like the police department and vice versa.
Absolutely. That's another question and discussion point that I get a lot of times from people, right? And I don't think that policing will ultimately always look like the community, right? We have very diverse communities across the United States. So, for example, if you have 20% African Americans in your community, that's not always to say that your law enforcement agency is going to be 20% African Americans, right? We don't deploy officers based off of racial makeup in the neighborhood and community. But I also think that we should always be working. We should always be working to have a recruitment strategy plan to ensure that our organizations are diverse. And that's with African Americans, that's with women in policing. We still are 20, 25 years later and are underrepresented by women in policing as well. But we have to ask ourselves why, right? Why is it hard to recruit people, particularly minorities, to this profession, especially when they have a great representation in the community and can relate on a lot of issues and challenges that we are facing. Yeah. And so I always tell people that recruitment has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. Yeah. You have to go out geographically to different communities and build trust over time, right? To build relationships with people in certain particular communities to know that you have an opportunity to serve in this community. And it may not be right now, but it may be 10 or 15 or 20 years from now to where you may be filling out that application in this particular community. So recruitment has to be intentional, right? And then it has to also be intellectually sound in the organization from a diversity standpoint. If you go to an organization and you look at the command staff of that organization, right, and everyone looks the same way, then you also have to say to the officers in that organization, what are my opportunities arising through the ranks in this department? If you look at investigative units, you have to ask yourself the same question. But that's in an organization, so you also have to evaluate what is the systemic issues behind what that system is inside that organization. Right, and so you have to say, is this organization intentional about their recruitment efforts, and is it intellectually sound? Right, because that's the after effect after.
Yep.
So just to talk about the city of Arlington and the police department in our plan, not only is it a goal of the city to have a diverse organization, right? It is also the goal of the police department to have a diverse organization. So we try to start as young as possible. You know, we have several mentoring, social justice programs where we build relationships with youth in our community. And some of those are the traditional PALS programs that a lot of law enforcement agencies focus on. And some of those are intentionally in communities where people do not like the police, right? And so we work with those youth, working with the school district, working with our local churches, where we have a framework of programs to specifically address issues and build relationships with youth in those particular communities. And whether someone identifies it as a formal recruiting process, it is a formal recruiting process to me because we are breaking down those barriers to build what those relationships are. And then at the high school level, we have a, if you will, technical school here in Arlington where it has a police academy, if you will. And it is an extension of our SRO program, but it is a program where an individual says at an early age, hey, I do feel like I want to go into law enforcement, right? And so them going through that program, we're able to kind of forecast them going to college. You talked about University of Texas at Arlington.
Yep.
And so as they kind of forecast through that way, or that system, then when they graduate from college, then guess what? They have front row seat and access to an interview before anybody else. And so we work on diversity early on. We work on building relationships early on. Probably here within the last 2 years, we just saw the benefits from that program where we had some students enter into our academy. The other thing is that you have to go recruit HBCUs. You have to go recruit majority Hispanic colleges. You have to ensure that you have an organization that has women in policing programs that give them opportunities to, apply for the position. Some years ago, we noticed that a lot of women were having challenges in the physical fitness portion, getting over 2 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot wall, right? And so we began to establish a process to where we allow people to begin to come to our academy and practice on the agility course beforehand or even after they fail. And so you have to give people opportunity, and that's the bottom line, and you have to be intentional about it. And it's not a quick turnaround, but again, it has to be an organizational philosophy and mindset.
Absolutely. You guys have your own academy, or do you guys use another department's?
No, so we have our own police academy. We normally have 2 academies a year. Here, most recently dealing with the COVID crisis, like other law enforcement organizations, we've had to put an academy class or 2 on hold and hope that we're able to, start those back up here in the near future. But we run our own full police academy, have instructors that are at our academies. A lot of regional people come to our academy for training. So we run our own academy here in Arlington, and that's a benefit for us because we're able to interject our philosophy of community policing here in Arlington and procedural justice.
Good deal. Good deal. So what's the most challenging part of your job as a chief?
I think the most challenging part of my job is just time management. I've got to be honest with you. Before I got appointed to deputy chief some years ago, actually it was in 2018, I'll never forget some of my peers telling me this here locally and around the country. Number one, they said when you begin to have stars on your collar, people will look at you differently. They will treat you differently, right? And sometimes you become the focus of attention that you may not desire, right? And it goes back to what I said earlier. Every single day is an assessment center. Someone is always watching you. But the second thing is that this is a 24/7 job. It never stops. For those that are patrol officers and you probably work an 8 or 10 hour shift, you're only worried about your shift. And you go home and you're thinking about, hey, when is the next time that I'm going to have to go back to work? If you're a beat sergeant, you're thinking about, managing that shift and what those call responses are. And as it continues to go on up through the organization, you're worried about more, a more diverse set of issues, right? You have to keep in mind how are things affecting our local government and our management team, how are things affecting the community, how are things affecting our cops, how are things that we do here, how are these things affecting our nation? And so you look at issues from a broader spectrum. And so there's a tactical side of policing, and then there's the public administration and management side of law enforcement. And it's a nonstop experience. Before I got on with you, I just got through dealing with the issue and had another interview. So it's nonstop. It's 24/7. And so I heard someone say this not too long ago, and I can't take credit for it, but someone said there is no such thing as work-life balance. They said that, you have to focus on the issues at hand, why you are where you are, and try to maximize those efforts when you spend time with your family, whether it's at home or somewhere else. You have to try to focus on what that is. So being a chief or at any executive rank in any organization, I would think is 24/7.
Yeah. They should do, you've seen those pictures of when they show presidents when they first get elected, how they look, and then by the end of their term, how they look. Hey, do not get me started. Do not get me started. I looked at a photo, probably, I don't know if it was 2006, 2007, when I promoted to sergeant. You have a lot more fuller head of hair. You have no gray hairs. And it seems like some of that has to be attributed to just age, of course, time,
My brother, over time, life will age you and this job will age you.
Sir.
So you're absolutely right on that.
Yeah. And then you see, guys that retired, or you look at President Obama now, he looks just as happy as could be. He's looking good now. So, it happens.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely a lot of more, I don't know how long ago this was. I read an article talking about good stress and bad stress. There are certain things in life that will grow you, and there are certain things in life that will age you. And so I think this job does both.
Right. And what's one of the most rewarding parts of your job now?
You know what? I think that I work for an organization that allows you to advocate, advocate for what's important to you. And that's why I'm happy, honestly, to work in the city that I work in. Again, I stated earlier, you look at policing across the country, just the fundamental processes of law enforcement is the same. But working in a job environment to where what you say matters, right? The diversity of ideas that you have, and if they support the organizational mission, no matter where you're at in the organization, you can implement that, right, with the police chief's approval. And so I work in an organization that has allowed me to flourish not only as a law enforcement leader, but to travel internationally and discuss and talk about law enforcement issues, whether it is being a Black police executive in America, or whether it's talking about issues surrounding race, or whether it's just, attending a community event and building relationships as a representative of your agency. And so, I've been able to publish. I've been on national television several times talking about policing. I've served in Washington, D.C. I've talked about law enforcement, as far as Ecuador. And so I work for an organization that really believes in innovation and ideas, and also just kind of representing policing from a professional perspective throughout the nation, if that makes sense. Yeah. So those things have been rewarding in my career, but I'll share an experience with you that happened 2 nights ago as I was speaking on a panel. After that panel was over with, a little young Black young guy came up to me, and his dad began to express to me that he said he wanted to go in policing, right? And I thought, man, a time such as this, this young man has came up and said, hey, I want to be a police officer. And those are the moments that I don't always get in my busy day, to just stand there and talk to him in the middle of the church for about 20 to 25 minutes and just pour into him and say, hey, you can do this. You're gonna take my job one day, right?
Right.
You represent the next generation of law enforcement, and you can do it. And just to kind of express to him some points, again, that people have always expressed to me, because you have to see yourself as what you want to become. And so that was very rewarding for me. Every time I get to sit down with someone and just discuss what this job really is and what it's all about, not what they see on TV sometimes or the horror stories that they hear, it's very rewarding for me, because ultimately it's the next generation of our profession.
Yeah. So as far as next generation, that leads me to my next point. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years or the next 10 years?
I've got to be honest with you. I'm working on a doctorate right now in public administration. I know you're in California. So my doctorate is really more, my dissertation is more so focused on the impact that police consent decrees have on police use of force, right? And so I'm trying to continue to build myself as a police executive, but ultimately in the next few years, I plan on being a police chief. I plan on leading my own organization, and that is a personal goal of mine. And beyond policing, I will still continue to do my consulting work. I consult for the Department of Justice Cops Office. I've done international consulting and speaking as well. I love pouring into people. I love, doing motivational speaking. But not only that, ultimately, I hope to go up into city management. So whether that's an assistant city manager or a city manager, I have several goals that I want to accomplish. Some of those are academically, and then some of those are professionally. But ultimately, my personal goal is there when it's all said and done, right? There are some greats in policing. When you hear names like Theron Bowman, when you hear names like Charles Ramsey, we have some great female police leaders right now across the country. CJ Davis, that's the president of Noble. You got Danielle Outlaw that just left Portland, that went to Philadelphia.
Right. Yep.
You've got Carmen Best that's in Seattle. We're beginning to see more diverse leadership in police organizations. And like many other police executives, I hope at the end of the day, when it's time to hang up my badge and my gun belt, you hope that you did something that made a difference. You hope you did something to inspire the next generation. You hope you spoke out on the issues when it mattered. People can do things when it's popular, but true leadership stands for righteousness when it's unpopular. So, you know, I hope to be or not even hope, I will be, you know, with the circle that I continue to keep around me and stay humble. I will be a police chief, and then ultimately I hope to go into city management, continue consulting as I do right now, and just really, my goal is to make a difference. Yeah. It's the same goal I had when I started 17 and a half, 18 years ago, was to make a difference. And I want to continue to do that just at a different rank or leadership level.
Right. Yes, sir. So, I mean, you're a pretty busy guy right now. You got your deputy chief duties, you got your PhD dissertation that you're working on. But when you're not doing all that, what do you like to do in your off time?
I gotta be honest with you, man. I run into these mental mindsets every now and then, where I have these spurts of Tarrick, the football player, right? And okay. People that know me will laugh about me on this, but man, if I'm about to go on vacation somewhere, probably like a lot of other people, if I've got something really upcoming, man, I am going to go into full workout mode. Now, I'll say right now, I try to at least work out, you know, twice a week. You know, I got to be honest, probably twice a week. I try to jog a little bit or go in the weight room at the police station or jog out in the neighborhood a little bit. But if I'm going somewhere, boy, you're gonna see a different Tarrick, right?
Well, you gonna take off the shirt? Is that what you're talking about?
Probably when I hit that island, right? Probably right. When I hit that island, it'll come off. But outside of that, I got to be honest with you. You know, spending time with family and friends is very, very important. You know, I'm in Texas. We like barbecue here. You know, and what I mean by barbecue, I learned traveling, you know, across the nation, that when you say barbecue, you know, people interpret that differently. Right. Sometimes people barbecue talking about like a family cookout. When we say we're barbecuing here in Texas, we mean that we about to turn that grill on, turn that smoker on. We're about to put a brisket on it, some ribs, and we're gonna let it simmer. So you know, I like to just kind of sit out back. Put some you know, food on the grill, drink a cold beverage, listen to some music, just different genres of music, from blues music to R&B to hip hop, you know, just a mixture of music. So,
all right, Chief, hip hop, okay.
Yeah. Oh, now come on, I'm not that old. You know, I'm not that old.
Right.
You know, I listen to a little trap music and you know, a little different array of music as well. You know, I have to stay in touch. You know, so you know, and a lot of people don't. You know, a lot of people don't know this. In Texas, just historically, it's really based out of Houston. You know, people listen to chopped and screwed music. You know, DJ Screw. So, you know, Texas, you know, has a plethora of music genres that probably have impacted, you know, a lot of different people, you know, so, but you know, I like to listen to music, spend time with family. You know, I have a very, very large family that has a lot of different deep roots, so I have a great support structure around me.
Nice. I noticed that painting behind you. What is that? Who is that?
Man, that is a painting of you talk about mentors. You know, I've always been a Martin Luther King guy all my life, you know, from being a kid, learning his speeches. You know, I believe that MLK represents the epitome of leadership. And it was funny because when I was listening to the press conference in Atlanta not too long ago from the mayor, Keisha Lance in Atlanta, and listening to, you know, just T.I. speak, Killer Mike speak, and then the police chief in Atlanta, you know, Dr. King's daughter, Bernice King, came on and she said something that really stuck out to me that I did not know. I had to go look this back up. But she said in the last years of Dr. King's life, he was one of the most unpopular people in the United States. That over 50% of the country had a disapproval rating for him. And I had to go look it up because I know that he became more activist minded, or what some people would consider, a radical in his time. But it also reminded me of, hey, you know what, being a leader is not popular. You also have to stand in the gap when it's unpopular, make the right decision. So, MLK is a guy that I believe in. I model most. I read a lot about MLK. I always have, and I actually just got this painting probably about it's probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and hung it here in my office.
Yeah, I like it. Looks good. Looks good. Now I can see all of it when you moved aside there. Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, they say when you're on the right side of history, your perceptions change over time. So that's definitely what happened with MLK. Is that he was unpopular back then, but he was on the right side of history. So
right.
We saw the same thing with Ali.
Hey, a lot of people say a lot of things about Muhammad Ali when he went from Cassius Clay to being Muhammad Ali, and we all have the right to practice whatever religion that we would like. And we're in a different time now, but I always point this out to people about Muhammad Ali. He was willing to sacrifice every single thing about himself to stand up for what he believed in, for the equality of Black America. And so his name, just like Dr. King's, or his legacy and his name, will live beyond his lifetime. And I have great respect for those men.
And we're seeing the same thing with Kaepernick as well. He was on the right side of this, so they're starting to look at him a little differently in the NFL. So we'll see how time works out with him as well.
Right.
Yeah. So I appreciate you coming on with me, Chief. I mean, I got a lot of good info, a lot of good insight on you, your department, Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. And
yes, sir. It is.
Definitely. But before I let you go, we talked about this off air. I got a little game I want to play with you. I hope you surprised me talking about hip hop. So maybe this won't be too much of a stretch for you.
No, don't do that to me, man.
No, it's not gonna be hip hop, but definitely. Let me get this set up for you here. This game I like to play is called
Black or blue, 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 black or blue.
All right, so can you see that on your screen there?
Yes, sir.
All right, so this game is called Black or Blue. Black or Blue. All I'm going to do is I'm going to give you, your category today is Look Ma, I'm on TV. So fictional TV characters. I'm going to give you a character, their name, and you tell me, is that a black character on TV? Or is it a blue character on TV, meaning it's a non-African American cop? Or if it's a black cop, you're going to say they're black and blue. So we got three. We got three, either black, meaning there's a black civilian. They're blue, meaning they're a non-black cop, or they're black and blue, meaning they're a black cop. And that's kind of confusing, but we'll get you through your first one. So if I were to say, for example, James Evans, you know who James Evans is, right?
Man, good time.
Yeah, you would say black, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so your first one here is Cedric Daniels. Cedric Daniels.
Oh man, that sounds tough. I gotta be honest with you, I have no idea who Cedric Daniels is.
Is he black? Is he blue, or is he black and blue?
I'm gonna go with black.
Close. You ever watch The Wire?
Oh man, now I know who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Hey, he was on The Wire. I watched all episodes of The Wire. I mean, I got you.
Yeah.
See, you know faces, but you don't specifically know names. Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
Did you watch The Wire back then?
My friends from Baltimore are gonna get on me.
Yeah.
Get on me.
I just recently got into The Wire. I hadn't watched it before, but during the pandemic, I binge watched it. That's a good show. Good show.
This not like online training. You can retake it again. And
no doubt. Your next one, Dave Starsky. Dave Starsky.
Okay, that's just gonna be blue.
Yeah, you got that one. That was an easy one. From Starsky and Hutch, played by Paul Michael Glaser. I used to watch that show back in the day. In the car. I remember. You remember that car, right? With the white stripe.
I remember the show Starsky and Hutch. I can't say I really watched it. but I do remember the name Starsky.
Okay.
So,
all right, let's hope we get you through the rest of them. There's not that many left. How about Pete Malloy? Pete Malloy.
Oh man, I'm familiar with that name. I'm just gonna say Blue.
You'd be correct. Pete Malloy from Adam 12, played by Martin Milner. Yep. See?
Yeah.
You knew he was in the back of your subconscious there. How about Thelma Evans? Thelma Evans.
Oh, that's Black.
Definitely Black. We all remember Thelma.
Good
Times, played by Bernadette Stanis. This should be another softball for you. Claire Huxtable.
Claire Huxtable, The Cosby Show. That's gonna be Black.
Yes, indeed. Yep. Felicia Rashad there. How about from The Cosby Show? How about Ed Green? Ed Green.
Black and Blue.
You're correct. Yeah, from Law and Order. Jesse L. Martin from Law and Order. A few more here for you. J.C. Williams. J.C. Williams.
Oh, okay. Dang, did he ever play a cop in anything? I can't recall. Maybe.
Well, that's the character's name. J.C. Williams. That's the character.
Oh. Man, I'll be wrong. Black.
Well, he is Black, but he's also. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong. That's Black and Blue. You ever watch New York Undercover?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounded familiar to you. Couple more. How about Overton Jones? Overton Jones.
Oh, Overton Wakefield Jones. Black.
Yep. Overton from Living Single, played by John Henson. And your last one, you got to get this one. There's another softball for you. Carlton Banks.
Oh, that's Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Black.
Yes, indeed. Yep, played by Alfonso Ribeiro. Looks like you got more right than you got wrong, so we're going to call you the winner.
All I do is win.
Right on. I appreciate it, man.
I gave you a few softballs there for you. Get that out the park. All right, let me stop this. And we are back. Yeah, so you got through that unscathed.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, I appreciate you coming on, Chief. And I know we got a lot of stuff going on. We got the protest, and I think we're still going through COVID. I don't know. Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. But we're still dealing with that. How had that hit your department?
You know what? In my opinion, we were able to kind of get ahead of it. It evolved in our department, just like in a lot of other communities. But I don't think we experienced just kind of like the sickness of the level of a lot of other major cities across the United States. So we had a plan in place. I think that, through our emergency management team, we were able to, number one, follow up on officers that had any type of exposure. There were decon procedures that we followed, but man, just another crisis that we had to serve through. So, but the health of our officers was very important, and I think our department had infrastructure in place to ensure that and give them that support.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you guys got through safe. So you make sure you still wear your mask and wash your hands and all that. And we'll talk soon, Chief. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, man, I want to tell you what you're doing is very important. You are humanizing our profession, and you're also highlighting minorities in our profession while you're doing it. And so this is an avenue for not only myself, but a lot of other people to have a voice and advocate and hear from law enforcement professionals around the country. So if there's anything I can ever do for you, please feel free to reach out to me and to all officers across this nation. Make sure you stay safe and serve our community with the professionalism that we should be exhibiting. So thanks a lot, Dale. God bless you. And just stay focused and know you're doing something that's innovative that we have not saw.
I appreciate that, Chief. You take care.
All right, take care.
Be safe.
Bam! And through the magic of cinematography, I now have a little bit more facial hair than I started this episode with. But it's all good, because you know what? That's it for this episode of the Black and Blue Podcast. I want to thank Arlington PD Deputy Chief Tarrick McGuire for taking time out of his busy schedule to join me here today. If you guys out there enjoyed this episode, make sure you like and subscribe to the show, whether it be on YouTube or wherever you're hearing my golden voice today. Till next time, y'all know what to do. Stay black in blue. I'll holla at you. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D' Entertainment presentation.